I did not play Resident Evil 1 through 6. I did play 7 and 8. I have videos on both of those on my channel. Please do not go back and watch them. 9 years is a really long time. I'm so sorry. So I acknowledge there's a lot of stuff from the old games I won't get. I don't know who this Leon fellow is. Supposedly he's in the old games. This game looks great. Everybody is saying this is like the best looking game on PS5 ever, and everybody always says that, and then I'm always unimpressed, which is probably a bigger statement about the PS5 than the actual games. Digital Foundry said it was running slightly above 1080p. I have no idea what that means, but it was a buttery smooth 60 frames a second, never had a frame drop, ran great. Only 2 bugs really is I had one zombie that kind of teleported, and that almost might be a mechanical issue, and then I had one sling. The sling on the gun was like sticking up to the side. It was all weird. Other than that, it was great. The character models are really, really good. This game looks great. It's all moody and lighting. It's fantastic. So the game's split into 2 sections. You know, you got Grace, which is all the first-person survival horror-y stuff from Resident Evil 7, and then Leon is all the third-person action-y stuff. We'll get to Leon later. I'm going to start with Grace. I'm going to start with everything good, and then there's a lot of it. Basically, if you liked Resident Evil 7, everything in there basically is in here too again. The aesthetic of the hospital is great. I love it. Looks great. Sounds great. Music's great. Full marks aboard across all audiovisual presentations. Well done. Good job. It gives you back the flashlight button. Finally, I've been complaining about that for 2 Resident Evils now. I played it on the standard mode classic, which is like a hard mode. There's an insane mode you unlock later, but whatever, I'm not playing it again. And something really cool they do on hard mode is that you have a finite number of saves, and they're a consumable in-game item that you have to find and use. That's ink ribbons that you put into the typewriter to save, which is brilliant. Oh, I love that. It constantly has you trying to squeeze in more progress and weighing the risk of going too far from your last save if you die. Oh, what a great mechanic. It's also a craftable, though, and it uses some of the same resources as other materials, so you're left trying to consider getting free zombie kills versus additional saves, which is just fantastic. Well done. The layer of thinking that one aspect adds to this game's exploration cannot be overstated. I also think one of the reasons I enjoy survival horror so much is that because it's scaled down, there's less enemies and less ammo. Bullets feel more meaningful, more impactful, and because of their scarcity, they're valuable. In some of this footage, it's gonna look like I'm playing bad, and also yes, but it's because I'm trying to wait until I'm confident I'm gonna get a headshot. And sometimes, based on what you have in your inventory, if I have extra heals and I'm low on ammo, I would literally rather take a hit than miss a shot. I don't know. I also just like looking around, scrounging for stuff. There's just an OCD aspect to that I enjoy. I like collecting supplies and organizing them and saving them and trying to use them as minimally as possible. Something else cool is there are some enemies that are less enemies and more so consistent recurring map obstacles you need to plan around. Chungus, for example, who I don't think I got any footage of, but he's really fat and he literally blocks the hallway and then he comes running after you around corners and he's very scary. You get to a point where you realize there's certain doorways he can't fit through, and then you look at the map and you basically can draw in your mind a section of the map where Chungus operates. And because there's multiple routes around parts of the floors, that encourages you to open up the map and think more and stop and plan a route. And then I'm weighing minor encounters versus major encounters. Do I want to deal with Chungus or do I want to deal with 3 minor zombies? And you kind of get to pick, and that's really nice. Similarly, there's another monster that doesn't like light, and the game introduces this beautifully. It literally doesn't even tell you, like, through tutorials until after the fact later. You have to figure it out by reading, a children's book that was left in there. Which really is a genius way of playing with light in a game, because one, not only is the dark just scary because it's unknown and you can't see, it's also scary because you know the girl can operate there. So there's extra layers to that. Very well done. Good job. So when the game has these big monsters and allows them to roam the map and has various things that they do and give you different tools to deal with them and change what zones are safe and unsafe, that's all great. Where the game starts to suck is in the controls. You cannot turn off camera acceleration in the settings. All you can do is adjust the sensitivity, and this is as fast as you can look and turn on maximum camera sensitivity. It is way too slow, and the game knows this is too slow, so it gives you a button called Quick Turns where you immediately pull a 180, which is for some reason mapped to circle, which I always wanted as crouch, so I rebound it to whatever something else. This is partly my fault, I guess. I could have mapped it to something else I didn't hit by accident. But literally, I only ever did this by accident, and it got me killed. And suddenly, I'm turning the wrong frickin' way. It's a stupid, dumb mechanic, and you should just increase your camera sensitivity. Now, I like managing the inventory. I'm totally on board with the idea that you can only bring so much with you. I think that's realistic. I think it's immersive. It makes you think carefully about what you bring and what you can kind of leave behind. That's all great. What I don't understand is why you can't set things down. Why you literally have to either pick them up or discard them and then they disappear into a different dimension. I can't just set this down on the table or drop it on the floor and come back to it later. That's stupid. Charms are dumb. The game gives you a couple charms at some points and they're really weird, obscure effects that were not helpful at all and totally not worth one of my precious, valuable inventory slots. So those were dumb. The health system with Leon is fine. You can see exactly where it is on a circle, but the health with Grace is a really weird, confusing, and unintuitive system. You have basically 4 levels. Fine with kind of a bluish-green tint, fine with kind of a greenish-yellow tint, caution, and danger. Which is so weird. Just say max, high, low, medium, or like stable, critical, healthy. To have the same word describe 51% through 100% of your hit point value is so unnecessarily confusing. Because the zombie just took a chomp out of my neck, but I guess I'm still fine. And I literally had to waste heals in the game just to figure that out. You guys are retards. It's also weird to have a dedicated heal button when there's different categories and levels of heal in your inventory. So I literally don't know which one it's going to use or pull from until after. And I don't know if the game's smart enough to relate that to how much health I was missing. So that was kind of weird and awkward. Like Dark Souls, you have a dedicated heal button from Estus, but Estus is always the same every time. But in Requiem, you might have a quarter heal and a half heal and a full heal. And this is the same problem that was in Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 8. The frickin' gun shoots friggin' slower than the heckin' blister heads can sprint. Dude, I got plenty of ammo and I'm ready to mag dump you. And I'm gonna park on this longer than I probably should. Do you have any idea how many fewer muscles are involved in pulling a trigger than in walking? So in the time it takes for them to take 2 steps, I cannot move my finger to pull a trigger twice. What the frick? Woman, you have an automatic handgun. Please pull the trigger faster. Thank you. Resident Evil 7 had a guard ability, and 8 might have done it too, where you could like hold up your arm and shield you. That's gone with Grace, and that sucks. That's desperately needed. The melee combat is now broken without that. There's also too much basement. There's the hospital section, and then there's a basement section, and then there's another basement section, and then there's an endgame sequence that I won't spoil. There is a short hotel sequence at the beginning that's basically just a cutscene area, really. It's not really an explorable game environment. It's very short. But that was great. I would love to spend more time in a hotel. Hotel seems like a perfect aesthetic to have another big sprawling open map to go explore. So do that in the next one. The logic in this game is also just wacky. So there's a guy on an examination table who's got a wristband for security level access you need to get through a couple doors. So what you do is you go on 2 separate side quests to find and collect his organs. You put them in his chest, you reanimate him, then he springs back to life, and then you shoot him, and then you pull the wristband off his corpse after you make him dead again. If I have to explain to you the logical issue with that, you are not the target demographic for this video. And there are a bunch of false jump scares, which is really frustrating because Resident Evil 7 didn't do that. So a lot of that was dumb and annoying and frustrating, but like zooming out big picture-wise, I had a lot of fun with Grace's section. It was actually really well done. Okay, and then there's Leon. Now everybody's been saying Leon's more action-y, and it is, but it's still survival horror. Whereas Grace is Resident Evil 7 survival horror, Leon is Last of Us 1 and 2 survival horror. There are a couple set pieces that are dumb and over the top, and I mean, how you feel on that is basically just gonna be based off of whether or not you like the game. If you didn't like the game and you went in not wanting to like it, you're gonna point to a couple things and just say this is Resident Evil 6 all over again. If you did like it, you're gonna kind of smirk and giggle, and it's silly, and it's over the top. For whatever reason, that should be tonally inconsistent, but it's not. They're still able to have some good emotional cutscenes that are actually really well done. Leon, I like this guy. He's cool. He does spin kicks and dad puns. It's a really nice kind of breath of fresh air from Grace to kind of go back and forth, and it's fun. I don't know. There's something about classic AAA M-rated game franchise that brings back its main protagonist after a few entries, and it's not woke and it doesn't suck. It's really bloody and gory and violent, and it's like old school, traditional man's game for men. I like what it represents, probably more so than I like the actual thing itself. And my goodness, those deltoids. If only I could be so grossly incandescent. So he's got several early sections that are kind of short and very action heavy. He has kind of his own open map area with some exploration and a few different buildings and points to kind of double back on each other. And when it finally lets you settle into that, the game's great. It's the same thing again, but from a Last of Us perspective. And it's more focused on getting weapons, collecting upgrades, and firepower. Some of the set pieces are dumb and over the top, and some of them are actually kind of neat. That's a mix. Going through and actually exploring the map of Raccoon City, I had a ton of fun. Something like 60% of the game is Grace in the hospital, 30% of the game is Leon in Raccoon City, and then everything else is short little sequences kind of going back and forth. But these two sections are the majority of the game. And I really like the aesthetic, the color palette change difference. It was like a bunch of post-apocalyptic stuff kind of during daytime. Very Last of Us. Very, very Last of Us. So you've got a bunch of different guns. Your inventory's way bigger, so you don't have to worry about leaving anything behind. And then you have a hatchet that you can sharpen, and I like this idea. It's a little player interactivity. I have to push a button for some maintenance, but it's not obnoxious, so I don't have to look for resources, and it doesn't break, and I'm unable to use it or anything. And it's quick. You just sharpen it, and I like the aesthetic, and I like, he's looking down, checking the blade. That's all fun, and that would be great if the hatchet wasn't a stupid piece of useless garbage. You will find yourself swacking and swacking and swacking at zombies, and nothing happens. And you're like, okay, is this a hatchet or is it a box of pasta? Because it's feeling like it's DiCecco linguine. It literally doesn't work. And like any defense of this for why they made the hatchet this way is just gonna get thrown out with, okay, if they didn't want me to use melee combat, then don't give me a hatchet. You're the one who gave me a freaking hatchet, dude. The actual minute-to-minute combat, the exploration, the atmosphere, going through the environments are all really detailed. All that is great. And then the worst part of the game is, once again, the controls. Leon controls like hot garbage. 90% of my deaths are because I can't move. The game parks you in tiny claustrophobic little hallways, makes enemies that sprint at you, and then does not give you the ability to back up. I should feel like I'm fighting the zombies. I should not feel like I'm fighting the controls. The game does not have a shoulder swap button. The game does it automatically for you. Sometimes, I don't know why, I don't know when. I spent like a minute trying to get it on the right shoulder to go around this corner, and it just wouldn't frickin' detect that I had a wall to my right. If you're, again, guys, give me a button. This is a video game. The point of a video game, the thing that makes a video game different from like a movie, is that I push buttons to make things that I want to happen on the screen. If you're just going to do everything for me, why are we even here? And if you're going to take control away and handcuff me and lock me in a little kitty gamer pen because I'm too stupid to manage my own shoulder swap, then it needs to actually work. This doesn't. Whenever you kill zombies with weapons, they'll drop the weapons and then you can pick them up and throw them, or pick them up and swing them depending on what they are. What this does is it incentivizes parking yourself and waiting for zombies to come to you, which is not a great way to play because that's a free kill. I mean, again, this is survival horror. I'm not just gonna leave a free kill behind. I'm gonna try to draw enemies back to it. The threshold for activation of this prompt is so tight and narrow, and there are so many times where enemies have like walked in and hit me before the prompt has even come to swing the weapon for the free kill. And it's like, dude, I'm trying to use the mechanics that you gave me. Why am I getting punished for that? You're incentivizing me to sit down and park my butt on these things because they're so freaking powerful. Keep in mind how valuable a free kill is. Most regular zombies take 2 to 3 headshots to die. Another annoyance is that, and I didn't get footage, you're just gonna have to trust me on this, one grenade killed a blister when dropped right at his feet. But you'll notice in this footage here that does nothing, and it's because the blisters are apparently invincible while they're transitioning, which is stupid. A grenade's a grenade. The flesh is still there. Just blow them up. And the worst parts of the game, by far, are the boss battles. When it's actual open-ended survival horror, and it puts you in a map and gives you a little nudge and lets you run free and do stuff, it is top-tier gaming. Wonderful. And then when it drops you in a box, it becomes trial and error, scripted, turn left you win, turn right you die nonsense. How was I supposed to see that coming? What was I supposed to do about that? Like, I'm sorry I can't read your mind. I'm sorry I can't see the future. Stupid friggin' dumb. And there are so many bosses that just hit you with giant big attacks, and it's like, I ain't got no shield. I ain't got no dodge. What am I supposed to do? Just get hit, I guess. Those are dumb. You just gotta power through those and then take a breath and then enjoy your time sweeping out the map methodically. That's the best part of the game. And that is the majority of the game. Story's good. Don't want to say too much. There's a really cool atmospheric location at the end. You're kind of getting closer and closer and closer, and you can kind of feel the distance. And it turns into kind of an adventure game for a little while. You're kind of just trekking from point A to point B. And there's some set pieces that look very big and very expensive. And I'm like, oh wow, I bet you they spent a lot of money on this. Emily, the blind girl you encounter as Grace, is great. She's cute. She's adorable. I wish she showed up earlier and that you had more reason to interact with her. But the two of them together are great. That's a good duo. There's a really good cutscene with her halfway through. You're just like, I know. I'm sorry. It's great. I'm sitting here still. I only beat it last night. I'm trying to think what number I would give it. 8 out of 10. Really good, really frustrating. It would be a 9 if it cut all the stupid boss battles and it fixed the controls. I really like it when games change the main menu song after you beat it. It really changes the vibe, and I really like that. I thought that was a nice touch. Okay, spoilers. 3, 2, 1, go. The motorcycle scene is probably what everybody's gonna complain about. And there was a moment where they got real close, and I thought they were about to reenact the motorcycle body slap from Mission Impossible 2, and I was egging them on. I was like, do it, do it, do it. Do it! And then they didn't. I was like, ah. I guess I didn't talk about Victor at all. Victor's good. Victor's a good villain. The scene where Emily becomes a monster is great, and Grace is like begging Leon to stop, and he's just looking at her like, oh, I'm sorry, as he just mag dumps her. That's really good. The whole ending sequence, the descent into the crater, I thought was really cool. And then the whole endgame survival horror level with Ark is really, really good too. It's a nice stark white color palette, really distinct, really clean. I like how Leon is slowly dying and getting weaker, and then he and Grace are kind of trying to help each other out. All good stuff. Virtually no complaints there. I also really like the ending. I like the whole concept that Spencer basically repents. It's literally Ecclesiastes. He lived the life of fame and riches and doing what he wanted, and it amounted to vanity, oh vanity, striving after wind. He regrets Umbrella. He's realized that sin leads to death and unhappiness and misery. So Albus is actually an antiviral, so he chooses life in the end. That's a really nice little redemption arc. I want more stuff like that. Usually, most of the time, Christian motifs stop at a surface level kind of self-sacrifice or literal resurrection. I'm thinking like Man of Steel, Batman v Superman. Like that's as far as they can get because that's really all they understand about it. I want to see more villains turned heroes and people getting what they don't deserve, paying a debt or serving a sentence on somebody else's behalf. That's a more rich reflection of what actually happens at the cross. I like that. That was cool. I want to see more of that.